Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations, and we are going to be playing with some alcohol inks today. I had a number of requests actually from people saying, you haven't done an alcohol ink painting in a while, and it's very true. So they requested that I do something. I have no ideas. Meaning I don't have anything specific I want to do. So what I thought instead is I'd maybe just kind of get rolling, pulling something together with some colors, see where it leads us, and maybe it gives you some other ideas on ways to be able to do this. I know that I've done like flowers and tiles and that kind of thing. So let's see where this goes, and we'll kind of take it from there more than anything else. I've pulled some colors. Most of them are T-Rex, but there is the whole Ranger line, there's the Pinata line. I mean, you use what alcohol inks you have and what you can get. And it's less important, I think, to try and replicate the colors used as opposed to, hey, I'm using kind of a green tone. You'll see what it looks like. Go for something similar, but it's more about the process. This is so organic anyway. There's no way that I can duplicate what I did. So good luck. So it's really about just more the process of it, I think, than anything else. And we'll kind of see where that takes us and kind of go from there. I'm not going to use the air gun today. I'm just going to use the little blower, maybe, my little Sizzix blower, or if you've got a little hair dryer, hair blower, something like that. So I'm not going to use any super special tools. I have my 99.9% alcohol, right? So my isopropyl alcohol, and that's it. So you're not using water. This is alcohol. You want it to evaporate. I have a graphics page, so Grafix. I just got off of Amazon. There's other brands of paper, which I also have. This was just the size I wanted to do today, so that's the only consideration for the paper. The only difference is that you definitely want to be using papers for alcohol inks, because you don't want the paper absorbing the ink. It will never move. So usually they're kind of plastic coated, or they are plastic. I mean, something like that. They're pretty non-porous paper is really what we're getting at. I'm going to pull you in over top so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'll try and explain as I go. I'll try and show you most of the steps, but I mean, there's certain aspects that are just repetitive, and I'll likely just cut through some of that so that you're not watching forever. You don't want to have like a 50-minute video of me dropping inks, but I'll try and give you all of the key steps, I think is what I'm saying. I don't necessarily have a plan. We're going to be doing some things a little bit more organically than anything else. I am looking at maybe an acrylic ink. So I'm just going to put a little bit of alcohol down. I'm going to be using just a puffer this time, not my air blower. So it's all fairly accessible to you. I'm not using anything specialized. I've already shaken my inks out, by the way. So you want to make sure that they've been kind of shaken, mixed well beforehand, but I did that before the video because y'all don't need to see that. Okay, now you can see that this started to dry. It wasn't really expanding anymore, and so we can add in some other colors. I'm thinking I'm going to do a little bit of that blue down here, so I'll go ahead and add that. Once we add other colors in, the alcohol in them will reactivate these inks. So none of this is kind of in a permanent place. It still gets to be moved. I could add more alcohol to it to do that. Now, I don't like this feathering here. That was for me blowing too much, but that's okay. It'll all get fixed. That color was Monsoon by T-Rex. I'm thinking I'm gonna add a little teakwood by Ranger here. So let's just drop a bit of that in. You could add the alcohol after you've done the ink. It doesn't matter. I don't think I really had much alcohol over here. But you can see that alcohol starts to reactivate that Monsoon that we had down earlier. So nothing ends up really being permanent here. And let's do a little bit down over here. I'm just kind of working right now at balancing some colors off more than anything else. Okay, and I'm going to take a little Sea Glass by T-Rex as well. You'll see that I automatically put my lids back on just because of the evaporation process. Okay, that's a little darker than I had anticipated, but it'll be okay. Oh, I love what it's doing there. And just for continuity's sake, let's add a little bit of that same green up here so it's not just looking totally out of place. I have a little bit of, what's this, Cafe au lait. I'm going to add in just up through here. Shouldn't be as dark as the teakwood, so a little more caramely colored. And this is getting a little too bunchy, so let's so you can see that the angle that you blow at, whether it's straight up and down or sideways, makes a difference in terms of the movement of the ink, but also the impact of the ink. I wanted softer, kind of a little bit more bouldery shaped things, so that's where I was going. I'm gonna try lemongrass, and I'm gonna do this. Oh, a little bit more up and around the top here. Whoa, all right, that was a big blob. We're just gonna have to make that work. It's gonna take it along then. Okay, Okay, I'm going back to my blue because it's quite strong here and quite light up here. So we'll strengthen that just a bit more too. And guys, this is just where you start playing. You know, just working with your color choices, seeing what you can kind of come up with and create here. Okay, that's a little bit more what I was looking for there, just in terms of my thinking. Now, I have this that I don't particularly like, so I'm going to take some alcohol on a cloth, and I just want to start to clear some of that away. And this is where you can see, like I said, that ink is just sitting on the surface there. Now you'd think that photo paper would work, but it will not because it's designed to absorb your colored printer inks. So it won't work for the alcohol inks. They'll just sit down into the paper and not move. Okay, a little bit better, a little more rounded there. But I want a little bit more stronger color through there. And I think that was my sea glass down in there. So let me get a little bit more of it. Good, good. And I want a little bit of that blue coming in here again. It's just play with it, see how it goes for you. One of the things that I have is they just have a little plastic sheet here. And I'm going to grab a little tiny, let me see, little tiny paintbrush if I can find one. Well, it's not too tiny, but it'll have to do. And I am just going to drop in a bunch of alcohol in here. And I'm just going to take that with some little alcohol drops and drop them in. So you can see how some of those darker lines along there, I can get them to open up a little bit. Create a little bit of interest by dropping in just some alcohol in small little amounts. You're not going to want to do this on every painting, but you know, it kind of works for some of the heavy spots or some of the things that you're thinking. Work for the more organic look of what you're going for. It's kind of lightening it up a little bit. Now, you could leave this clear, or you could, where is a different blue? Let's try a little bit of Pacific blue. Not sure how dark this is, we'll see. Or you could add in a little bit of sky happening here. I'm tilting my paper away from here because I don't want it to merge down there. But you can get this all flowing across. The other thing that you can do is you could take your paintbrush, and you could just add a little bit more alcohol, and you can take your brush and brush it across, and then start letting it flow. I'm letting the excess flow off of there, taking it back up. I want it lightened. Now as well, you could take a piece of paper towel, wet cloth, dip it in a little bit of alcohol, and dip it across, lightening some of this. And of course, you could do multiple colors too, right? It doesn't have to be all just one color. But you can see this is all starting to firm up. And you just get to keep playing. Okay. Now, the next part of this, let me just move the inks out of the way. I am going to take a little bit of an acrylic, black acrylic ink. Now, this particular step, just check to make sure the camera was still on. This particular step, you cannot do with an alcohol ink. It would cause everything to spread. But I've got a little stylus here. It's got a little ball on the end. I'm going to dip it into my acrylic. Let me go right up here, and I'm going to put just a little tiny ball of acrylic. I'm going to take my puffer and I'm going to get that to go up and follow. Now I've got a smaller end here, and I'm going to drop that on right up there so we get and this kind of goes however it wants to go. You don't get tons of control over it. Whoops, that was the fat end. Let me do the smaller end. It's very organic. See, I wanted that to go up, and it didn't. It went the opposite direction. But I'm going to give it another try. We got it a little bit. And this is just a way of being able to get very organic looking branching happening. Let me move you out of the way. even when it looks like it might be dry, keep puffing because it really does end up going further than you think. Do a little dot over here. That went the opposite direction that I wanted, but I like that, so it's okay. Let's try just a little one branching off there. All right. Well, that had a mind of its own, didn't it? Those are so much fun. You have to kind of stop at some point. Now, the next thing that I have is I have an alcohol ink marker. So this is the same alcohol ink. It has a chiseled end and it has a kind of more fine tip end. And we're just going to add little florals here and there. So I'm just doing a multitude of dots and in various sizes. And I'm just going to do this all over. And now I'm just taking a lighter pink one and I am just kind of dotting around and in around where I had those purple dots. So just kind of filling in the flower a little bit more and softening it out a little bit, adding a little bit more interest. It's a very pale contrast, but those alcohols kind of mix a little bit and blend a little bit, and it just makes it a little more interesting or flower-like or purposeful. Okay, kind of gives it the look of like these tough little scraggly flowers trying to make it, trying to break into here. Now, we can leave this alone, or we can play with this a little bit too. So what I have is just a white gel pen. Whoops. Just clean it off a little bit. And I'm just going to add some dots. And I'm going to do it kind of tracking down in around some of these heavy areas. Lightening them up, kind of highlighting some of the movement around. I don't know, let's say these were rocks and grass and we're not going to put them everywhere. But we're going to keep dotting around. And you could leave it alone, or you could also take a very thin, fine marker and you could just add in some extra little details here and there so that your trees or your branches aren't just kind of coming out of nowhere. Everything is optional. Once your painting is done and dry, mine's not quite dry, so I'm not doing it yet, but what I will be doing is sealing it with a UV resistant matte clear coating. So alcohol inks are susceptible to UV rays, which means it will fade over time with the light, and this is still alive. You know, if I dropped alcohol on it, it's gonna spread. So we wanna seal it, we wanna protect it. And I will be doing this once dry, just to be able to protect it fully. All right, and there's our finished little painting. Now, probably more sky than I wanna have. I can cut that off, reduce it a little bit. I can cut any part of it that doesn't work for me. But I hope that for those of you that are requesting more alcohol ink paintings, that this gave you a little bit to play with in terms of some different techniques or blending, even adding in acrylic ink or some of the jelly pens, or using a little bit of the alcohol ink pens. I know that the alcohol ink markers, some people have asked about, so I will look in the future of doing a painting, probably of flowers or something that is primarily all the markers, because you can lay those down and reactivate those with the alcohol just the same as with the paints. They're a little bit more controlled. So for some of you that think, oh my God, I got it too big of an ink blob, and what do I do? And that's a little too intimidating for you, then that may be the way to go. You can see that I diluted the sky quite a bit to be able to get a little bit of a variegated kind of look, lighter here and darker. I didn't want to have it as heavy as the bottom. The bottom is kind of what's drawing us and attracting us more than anything else. And I just kind of wanted it to look like a bit of a rocky shore with a little bit of scraggly brush coming out of it. So once I started adding, that's where I started going. Let me know what you think of this one, guys. Let me know if you've started playing with your alcohol inks yet, or perhaps you're not just playing, you're more of an expert. And share any of your tips as well with the group. More than happy to hear from you, learning along with everybody else. Until the next time, take care.